In 2003, a shocking crime rocked the city of Los Angeles, California. Sarah Thompson, a 28-year-old information analyst and Taekwondo black belt, vanished mysteriously after attending a dinner party. As the investigation deepened, each uncovered detail of this puzzling case left the public increasingly horrified. Los Angeles, the largest city in California and the second largest in the United States, with a population of nearly 4 million, served as the backdrop for this chilling tale. Known for its glamorous entertainment industry and diverse culture, the city became the stage for a crime that would captivate the nation. The central figure in this story was Sarah Thompson, born on July 18, 1974, to a mixed-race family in Los Angeles. Her father, Robert Thompson, was the principal of a middle school, while her mother, Maria Rodriguez, was of Hispanic descent and worked as a teacher. Sarah was admired by family and friends for her beauty and success. She was known for her kind, respectful, and caring nature, as well as her filial piety. Beyond her striking appearance, Sarah was passionate about sports, particularly Taekwondo. She had achieved the highest rank of black belt in this martial art, showcasing her dedication and talent. Despite her prowess in martial arts, Sarah also excelled academically. In 1995, after graduating high school with honors, she left Los Angeles to study information technology at Stanford University. Upon graduation, she quickly became a highly regarded IT analyst, praised by her colleagues for her expertise. While working in Silicon Valley, Sarah met Michael Chen, a handsome Chinese-American man. The attractive couple was the envy of many. In 2001, they married in a joyous ceremony. After their marriage, they lived a comfortable life with high incomes and a bright future ahead for their small family. However, their happiness was short-lived. In early 2003, Sarah's father was diagnosed with cancer during a routine health checkup. Fortunately, his condition was detected relatively early, and the chances of successful treatment were high. When Sarah learned that her father had a rare form of cancer requiring a risky surgery, she didn't hesitate to put everything on hold and return to Los Angeles to care for him. For Sarah, family always came first. On June 1, 2003, Sarah flew from San Francisco to Los Angeles and went straight to the hospital to care for her father. She supported him through a tense and worrying surgery. Thankfully, the operation was successful, and her father's health improved significantly. This brought Sarah great relief and comfort. After spending over 10 days by her father's side, Sarah saw that his condition had improved considerably. She planned to return to San Francisco on June 14 to resume her work. Everything seemed to be going smoothly, and the family decided to organize a farewell dinner for her departure. But no one could have predicted the terrible tragedy that would befall Sarah right after that farewell dinner. What followed would shock the entire country and leave her family in inconsolable grief. On June 13, 2003, the day before Sarah was set to leave for San Francisco, her family hosted an intimate farewell dinner. The gathering included only family members and a few close friends of Sarah's. The venue chosen was a restaurant in a popular shopping mall. At 8 p.m., as night fell over the city, Sarah drove her mother to the restaurant. The underground parking lot of the mall was quite deserted and dimly lit due to several broken lights. As it was getting late, the two hurried up to the restaurant after parking. In their haste, Sarah suddenly remembered she had forgotten to take the parking ticket from the car. At that time, most parking lots in Los Angeles used a payment method different from what we have today. You would take a ticket at the entrance and then pay the parking fee at a separate location. The payment point was usually not at the exit, so you had to always carry the parking ticket with you. Realizing her mistake, Sarah told her mother, "It's okay, Mom. I'll go back and get it after we finish eating." When they arrived at the restaurant, everyone else was already there. The atmosphere was jovial and warm as they enjoyed dinner. Sarah seemed very excited, chatting non-stop with friends she hadn't seen in years. Time flew by as they reminisced about old memories and shared updates about their current lives. By 10 p.m., the party was still in full swing. Although Sarah wanted to stay longer with her friends, she noticed her mother was looking tired. Being a filial daughter, she decided to take her mother home to rest first. She she planned to return to the party afterward to continue catching up with her friend. Sarah, along with her mother and sister, went down to the parking garage. While queuing at the ticket counter, she suddenly remembered she had left the ticket in the car. After telling her mother and sister to wait, she quickly stepped into the elevator to go down to the parking level. The distance from the queue to the parking area wasn't far, but minutes passed and Sarah still hadn't returned. After 20 long minutes, Sarah's mother and sister began to worry. They still hadn't seen her come back, which seemed unusual for such a simple task. Concerned, they tried calling Sarah's phone but received no answer. A sense of unease began to envelop them as the silence persisted. Feeling increasingly anxious, they decided to go down to the parking area to look for Sarah. What they discovered there would be the beginning of a horrifying nightmare. They were shocked to find that Sarah's car had vanished without a trace. Even more worrying was that there was no sign of Sarah anywhere in the parking area. Panic-stricken, they rushed back to the restaurant to inform everyone. Friends and family immediately sprang into action, repeatedly calling Sarah's phone. No matter how many times they called, she didn't answer any of their calls. After numerous attempts, they despairingly realized that her phone had been turned off completely. As hope began to fade, someone remembered that the parking lot had security camera. They immediately ran down to the security office, urgently requesting to view the surveillance footage. However, they encountered another obstacle. According to regulations, surveillance camera footage could only be checked after 24 hours. This rule was originally set to protect privacy. Now it became a barrier in their desperate search. Finally, after much pleading and explaining the emergency situation, the security guard agreed to let them view the surveillance video, breaking the rule due to the unusual circumstances. What appeared on the screen shocked everyone present, revealing a horrifying scene. The video showed that at 10:16 p.m., Sarah was beside her car, presumably looking for the parking ticket. Suddenly, from the shadows, a strange man approached her car from behind. Sarah, despite being a Taekwondo black belt, was caught off guard in the dark parking lot. Her martial arts skills, honed for sport and self-defense, were not enough to counter this sudden and brutal attack. Although Sarah tried to resist fiercely, the attacker had the element of surprise. After landing a hit, he viciously attacked her multiple times in the stomach and chest. The brutal assault left Sarah paralyzed, unable to defend herself any further. Just a moment later, in a horrifying turn of events, the man forcefully dragged her into the car. Without hesitation, he jumped into the driver's seat and sped away with the victim. The car raced through the parking lot, smashing through the exit barrier. The sound of breaking wood and screeching tires echoed through the nearly empty parking garage. However, due to the poor lighting conditions, the surveillance camera couldn't clearly capture the kidnapper's face. This crucial detail would later hinder the investigation, leaving law enforcement with limited information. After witnessing the horrifying scene of her daughter being kidnapped, Maria nearly collapsed from fear and pain. With shaking hands, she immediately called the police, reporting the kidnapping and pleading for help. But the family couldn't bear to sit and wait for the authorities to arrive. In a desperate effort to find Sarah, everyone decided to drive around Los Angeles. They searched tirelessly, combing through every street and calling Sarah's name into the night. Hours passed, and the sky began to lighten as dawn approached. By 4 a.m., exhausted and heartbroken, Sarah's mother and sister finally decided to return home. They were physically and emotionally drained after a night of fruitless searching around the city. As hope faded, they realized that now they could only rely on the police to find their beloved Sarah. For 2 anxious days, neither the police nor Sarah's family found any clue. The lack of progress left all those involved in the search feeling frustrated and horrified. Desperate for any lead, Sarah's family decided to enlist the help of the media to broadcast the news widely. They issued multiple missing person notices, plastering Sarah's picture all over the city. Additionally, they offered a substantial reward of $10,000 for any information leading to Sarah's whereabouts. This amount, equivalent to about 2 months' average salary in the U.S., demonstrated the family's desperation in their their search for Sarah. The incident attracted public attention beyond imagination, causing a stir across the country. The mysterious disappearance of the beautiful, successful young woman touched the hearts of many Americans. Public nature of the case put enormous pressure on the Los Angeles Police Department to quickly solve the crime. As time passed, urgency to find Sarah alive became increasingly intense. Then on June 16th, a breakthrough finally came from an observant patrol officer. The officer reported spotting a car with the same license plate as Sarah's. The vehicle had been abandoned next to a desolate construction site on the outskirts of the city. Police immediately rushed to the scene, their hearts pounding with anxiety about what they might find. On arrival, they were shocked by the condition of the car. The front was severely damaged, likely from the violent collision with the parking lot barrier the night before. One of the front tires was damaged, suggesting the car had hit something when accelerating suddenly, causing the tire to separate. Most terrifyingly, a large amount of blood was found on the back seat of the car. At the same time, traces of semen were also discovered. It appeared that Sarah had been raped and severely injured right in her own car. The police then thoroughly searched the surrounding area, found nothing. While investigating the scene, the police decided to try calling Sarah's phone number one more time. Surprisingly, this time a man answered. The police quickly traced the location of the call and immediately dispatched officers to that location. The person holding Sarah's phone was a man named John Davis. He was a taxi driver. Under police interrogation, he stated that in the early morning of June 14th, while driving to work, he saw a car parked by the road near an industrial area. Coincidentally, his seat was broken, so he got out of the car to look for a piece of wood, prop up the seat. Unexpectedly, he saw a naked girl in the back of the car and a man sitting in the driver's seat. At the time, he thought it was just a couple who had been intimate, but he didn't think much of it. A while later, the car left. After driving around doing some errands, on his way back home, he saw the car had returned and was parked in the same spot. Curious about whether there was something scenic to view there, he decided to get out of his car and approach the vehicle. When he looked inside, he saw no one, only a handbag and a girl's cell phone on the back seat. Seeing no one around, he succumbed to temptation, reached through the car window to take the handbag and cell phone, and left. After thorough investigation, police found that John Davis had no connection to Sarah. His build was also quite different from the man captured on camera. He had also described the build of the man in the driver's seat very clearly, and it basically matched the person recorded by the camera. His use of Sarah's phone also seemed consistent with his statement. After careful consideration, police ruled him out as a suspect and considered him an important witness. On June 17th, 4 days after Sarah's disappearance, a new development occurred. About 2 kilometers from where the car was found, a construction worker accidentally smelled a strong, foul odor coming from a sewer by the road. Curious, he opened the manhole cover and was horrified to discover a burnt body inside. Terrified, the worker immediately called the police. The police quickly arrived at the scene. There, they found a severely burned body along with 2 car tires in the sewer. The body was positioned with arms crossed over the chest. Most of the body had been burned to charcoal, making identification extremely difficult. After conducting an autopsy, the forensic doctors made an initial conclusion. The victim had died from 2 deep stab wounds to the abdomen. The burning of the body was only to dispose of evidence, done after the victim was already dead. Notably, the victim had been brutally raped multiple times before death, causing severe damage to the genital area. Forensic doctors later also successfully extracted DNA from the semen remaining in the victim's body. To determine if the victim was Sarah, the police invited Natasha, Sarah's best friend and Sarah's sister, to the hospital. When they saw the body, Sarah's sister immediately recognized the partially unburned jeans. It was the pair of jeans she had lent Sarah to wear to dinner on that fateful night. Through DNA confirmation, they finally confirmed that the body was indeed Sarah. This news completely devastated her family and friend. During the investigation, an important witness emerged. It was a woman named Emily Johnson. She reported to the police that in the early hours of June 14th, she had encountered a strange man whose car had a flat tire. This man had knocked on her car window and asked to borrow tools to change the tire. At that time, Emily had agreed to help. Moreover, her husband was also in the car and had gotten out to assist the man in changing the tire. While preparing to change the tire, Emily noticed a girl sitting in the back passenger seat of the man's car. The girl in the car clasped her hands and looked at Emily as if pleading for something. Seeing this, Emily got out of her car and approached the girl, intending to ask if something was wrong. The man saw this and appeared frightened. He immediately stopped changing the tire and jumped into the car to drive away. At that moment, Emily realized something was amiss and quickly noted down the license plate, WFN 6871. This was Sarah's license plate. On the night of June 13th, the night Sarah disappeared, around 11:15 p.m. in the Westwood area, an off-duty police officer who was on patrol with a colleague noticed a blue car parked by the road. Initially, it seemed normal, so he didn't pay much attention. However, more than 30 minutes later, when they patrolled the same area again, they still saw the car parked. Noticing this, the officer approached and knocked on the car window to talk. In the dim light, he saw a man sitting in the driver's seat inside the car. In the passenger seat next to him was a girl who looked somewhat furtive and scared. Feeling that something was amiss, the officer asked them to show their identification. The two people in the car cooperated very well and presented their IDs. While examining the documents, the officer noticed the girl next to the driver making a series of strange gestures. She clasped her hands in front of her chest as if pleading for something. Sensing that something was wrong, the officer immediately asked the girl to get out of the car for questioning. As the girl was about to open the door to get out, the man suddenly became aggressive. He even shouted at the police officer, "You're just fake cops. You're robbers." After saying this, he slammed the car door shut and fled. Seeing this, the officer drew his service weapon and fired 2 shots at the car. One shot hit the tire, but the car still sped away, disappearing into the night. Because the incident happened so suddenly, the officer didn't have time to note down the license plate. However, fortunately, the officer still had the 2 ID cards of the people in the car. Because at that time, the news about Sarah's kidnapping had not yet spread widely, they didn't realize the importance of these 2 cards. They had also submitted the 2 cards to their superiors, and no one had paid attention to them. Only when the news spread did they review the 2 ID cards and discover something unusual. One person was named Adam Smith, and the other was Sarah Thompson. The police immediately began searching for the man named Adam Smith. They checked the address on the ID card and discovered that the address was fake and the ID card was also fraud. This made the police even more confused and suspicious. They only knew the name of this man, but had no other information. Finally, the police had to trace his name through the marriage registration office and social security office. They finally got results. The information showed he was 27 years old, working for an aircraft cleaning company and holding a management position. They also found information about his wife and his home address. To avoid alerting him, police staked out near his private residence. After 3 days of surveillance, police didn't see him appear at all, only seeing his wife coming and going from the apartment. At 4 a.m. on June 20th, the police finally saw him step out of a taxi and walk towards home. The police quickly approached and successfully apprehended him. Initially, the police thought he must be an extremely vicious person to have acted so brutally, but in reality, when arrested by the police, he didn't resist at all. His face was very calm, even with a slight smile, not looking like a brutal murderer. After thorough investigation, the police discovered that Adam, the real name of Adam Smith, was a devout Christian and truly had no prior criminal record. His family life was very happy. Adam himself was the director of an aircraft cleaning company. His wife was a senior employee at a bank, and they had a 5-year-old child. At that time, his wife was also 3 months pregnant with another child. By conventional logic, no one could understand why Adam would commit such a crime in such a happy family. Police later also obtained a warrant to search his house. They found a blue jacket and blue jeans with bloodstains in his home. With evidence such as blood-stained clothes, DNA, semen, and confirmation from Officer Avi, Adam chose to confess everything. He recounted the entire incident in detail. He even led the police to the underground parking lot of the shopping mall and explained his crime process meticulously. He confessed that on the night of June 13th, he accidentally saw the attractive and beautiful Sarah walk by. Overcome by animal instinct, he followed the car of the mother and daughter on a motorcycle. After arriving at the parking lot, he discovered there was another person in the car, so he couldn't do anything. Not giving up, he left the motorcycle on the street and hid in the parking lot, waiting for an opportunity for many hours. After a long wait, he was delighted to see Sarah walking alone in the parking lot. When he saw her looking for something in front of the car, he rushed forward and subdued her with a knife. Fearing discovery, he drove the car straight through the barrier and fled. He said he had raped her a total of 2 times. Finally, as the victim kept resisting, he stabbed her in the stomach with the knife. Seeing her dying, he panicked and didn't know what to do. Therefore, he tied her up with a strip of cloth. Then, seeing an uncovered sewer by the road, he decided to dump her body into the sewer. He even threw in 2 car tires, poured cement, used some boards to cover the hole, and then hurriedly fled the scene. The next day, he returned with gasoline and a lighter and burned the body to destroy evidence. By common logic, when he had confessed to the crime, the case should have come to an end. But things afterwards were not as simple as that. After confessing, Adam's family hired a famous lawyer named David Johnson to defend him in the upcoming trial. Surprisingly, during the trial, Adam retracted all his previous confessions and claimed that those confessions were made under duress. In fact, he asserted that he was innocent. Adam testified that the police had threatened him, saying that if he didn't confess, his wife, children, and parents would be thrown in jail. This was a situation no one could have imagined. But even if he denied it, evidence such as blood on clothes, DNA, and semen was hard to refute. However, Adam's lawyer didn't think so. He argued that this evidence was only circumstantial, and no one had actually seen Adam commit the murder. The lawyer also pointed out some contradictions in the initial confession. First, the surveillance camera system in the parking garage was very blurry and couldn't clearly show whether the person in the image was Adam. Even if that man was him, couldn't prove that he had kidnapped Sarah. She might have gone with him voluntarily. Second, Sarah was a Taekwondo black belt, while he was just an ordinary person. It seemed illogical for a high-level martial artist to be kidnapped by an average person. Third, throughout the entire incident, it was clear that Sarah had 2 opportunities to be rescued. Once, when they encountered the police, she could have opened the door and escaped. She didn't. Another time was when he went to borrow tools to fix the flat tire. She was clearly alone in the car, but chose not to open the door and run away. Fourth, the police had found blood-stained pants at Adam's house. The lawyer believed there was an issue with those pants because the police didn't measure their specific size, so they couldn't confirm that the jeans belonged to him. Finally, there was ample evidence showing Sarah had been sexually assaulted, but Adam claimed she had consensual relations with him. So what was the cause of Sarah's death? The lawyer believed it was a consensual relationship gone wrong. As the trial progressed, public opinion was divided. Some believed Adam was guilty and should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. Others thought there were too many inconsistencies in the case and that Adam might be innocent. The prosecution presented forensic evidence, including DNA matches and the blood-stained clothing found in Adam's home. They also brought forward the testimonies of Emily Johnson and Officer Avi, who had encountered Adam and Sarah on the night of her disappearance. Adam's defense team, led by David Johnson, worked to create reasonable doubt. They questioned the reliability of the DNA evidence, suggesting potential contamination. They also emphasized Sarah's martial arts skills, arguing that it was unlikely for Adam to overpower her. One of the most contentious points was Sarah's apparent lack of resistance during the 2 encounters with potential rescuers. The defense suggested this indicated that Sarah might have been with Adam willingly, at least initially. As the trial went on, the media frenzy around the case intensified. News outlets covered every detail of the proceedings, and public debates raged about Adam's guilt or innocence. The case became a national sensation, people across the country following its developments closely. The trial lasted for several weeks, with both sides presenting their arguments and evidence. The jury was tasked with the difficult decision, determining Adam's guilt or innocence, based on the conflicting information presented. After days of deliberation, the jury finally reached a verdict. The courtroom was packed and tense as everyone awaited the decision that would determine Adam's fate and potentially bring closure to Sarah's family. The jury foreman stood up, ready to announce the verdict that would conclude this tragic and perplexing case. The courtroom fell into a tense silence as the jury foreman stood up. All eyes were fixed on him as he prepared to deliver the verdict that would conclude this harrowing case. On the charge of first-degree murder, we find the defendant, Adam Smith, guilty. The foreman announced, his voice clear and unwavering. A collective gasp echoed through the courtroom, followed by a wave of murmurs. Sarah's family, seated in the front row, clasped hands tightly. Tears of relief and grief streaming down their faces. The judge called for order, his gavel striking sharply against the sound block. Once the courtroom settled, he prepared to deliver the sentence. Judge Michael Anderson, known for his fair and thorough approach to justice, took a moment to gather his thoughts before speaking. His voice, firm yet compassionate, filled the courtroom. Adam Smith, you have been found guilty of the murder of Sarah Thompson. This court has carefully considered all the evidence presented, the brutality of the crime, and the immense suffering you've caused to Sarah and her loved one. The judge paused, his gaze sweeping across the courtroom before settling on Adam. The loss of Sarah Thompson is a tragedy that has deeply affected not only family and friends, but our entire community. She was a bright, talented young woman with a promising future. Her life was cut short in a most horrific manner. Judge Anderson's voice grew stronger as he continued. While this court acknowledges your lack of prior criminal history, the nature of this crime demands the most serious consequences our justice system can impose. Premeditation, brutality, and the attempts to conceal it all point to a grave disregard for human life. Took a deep breath before pronouncing the sentence. Adam Smith, I hereby sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Additionally, you are ordered to pay restitution to Sarah Thompson's family for funeral expenses and ongoing counseling services. The judge's eyes softened slightly as he addressed Sarah's family. To the Thompson family, while no sentence can ever bring Sarah back or fully heal your pain, I hope that this verdict and sentence can provide some measure of closure and justice. Sarah's memory will live on through the lives she touched and the love she inspired. Finally, Judge Anderson addressed the wider community. Let this case serve as a reminder of the value of every human life and the severe consequences that await those who would violate the sanctity of that life. Our community must come together to support victims of violence and work tirelessly to prevent such tragedies in the future. With a final strike of his gavel, Judge Anderson concluded, "This court is adjourned." As Adam was led away in handcuffs, a sense of relief washed over the courtroom. Sarah's parents embraced each other, their faces a mixture of grief and gratitude for the justice served. Friends, supporters, and even members of the jury wiped away tears, feeling that while nothing could bring Sarah back, her killer would never again be free to harm another person. In the days that followed, community came together to honor Sarah's memory. A scholarship was established in her name at her alma mater, Stanford University, to support students pursuing careers in information technology and martial arts. The local Taekwondo academy where Sarah had trained dedicated a new training room in her honor, ensuring that her passion and spirit continued to inspire others. The case also sparked important conversations about safety in public spaces, leading to improved security measures in parking garages across the city. Sarah's tragic story, while heartbreaking, ultimately led to positive changes that would help protect others in the future. For Sarah's family and friends, the road to healing would be long and difficult. But with the support of their community and the knowledge that justice had been served, they could begin to move forward, always keeping Sarah's memory alive in their hearts.